Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with atbbq.com, and this is Detroit-style pepperoni pizza. For those of you watching right now, I know that you're already out here. You're checking out cooking shows like ours, which means you probably already know that Detroit-style pizza has been having a moment. And I gotta tell you, I'm here for it. This stuff is really delicious. It may take some cues from other styles of pizza, but it's definitely its own thing. So while a Detroit-style pizza is cooked in a pan and the sauce is put on top of the cheese, it is definitely not a Chicago deep dish. Now this is actually cooked in a rectangular pan. The cheese goes all the way to the edges, and this is maybe the best thing about it. That crunchy edge where that cheese crisps up, and then the oil that's around the dough itself actually fries the dough just a little bit. I'm kind of in love with this pizza right now, so I'm excited to share it with you guys. We're gonna start by making our dough. So I'm gonna scale out enough for 2 pizzas here, 370 grams of warm water. So this is sitting right between, a little high, sitting right in between about 105 to 110. Yeah, 107 right now, that'll be great. Then we're gonna scale out 10 grams of our Caputo instant yeast. And 10 grams of sugar to give that yeast something to feed on and really start to develop. Give this a good mix. And then I'm gonna stick this in a warm spot. I usually just put it on top of the stove in the kitchen for about 5 or so minutes until it starts to foam up. You see us make a lot of pizzas on this channel. Most of the time we use the same 4-ingredient pizza dough, but this is a little bit different dough. So I've increased the hydration level, which means a little bit wetter dough. And also you'll notice the addition of the sugar. First of all, just to make it just a touch sweet. It's not sweet, but just a touch sweet, and to give that yeast something to actively feed on right off the bat. Now, beyond that, they're pretty similar. Flour, water, yeast, salt. Today we got a little bit of sugar. So now you can see that yeast is working. It's foaming up. We're gonna add in the rest of our ingredients here. Next, we've got our flour. Let's tear this out. We're gonna do 510 grams of flour. So our hydration on this is at about 72% versus our normal one, which is closer to like 67, I wanna say, 66. The other thing you probably think is kind of weird is we are, like, I don't even remember if we've talked about this yet, but yeah, we're gonna put this together in a food processor today. It's another option. A great way to put together a pizza dough really quick. So now that we've got that, we need our salt. We're gonna do 14 grams. You could just do a regular kosher salt or something like this, but we've got this Jacobsen black garlic infused salt, which also adds a little bit of extra sweetness, and that garlic flavor works it right into the dough. We're gonna throw it on the Vitamix and let her rip. You can see that in just not even 30 seconds. That whole thing starts to ball up. This is, like I said, it's a wetter dough, so it's gonna be a little bit stickier. I think we processed that to a really nice place. It's not totally smooth, but it's gonna smooth out. Just a little bit more. It's gonna smooth out, especially as it sits in this bulk ferment stage, which is what we're gonna do next. Transfer this whole thing over to rise and double in size. So we wanna get this transferred into a well-oiled container. I do not mind having a little bit of extra olive oil in here to coat the outside. You're gonna see that as a theme in this recipe today, a little extra olive oil. Yeah, that's gonna show up right around that 1 quart mark. We're gonna let this just about double in size, so we'll see it when it's popped all the way up to that 2 quart mark. Inside, on top of the stove. But this is doubled in size now, so we're ready to divide it in half and get it ready to go into the pan for our Detroit style pizza. So let's get this out first, figure out how much it weighs, and that'll tell us how much goes in each half. We're at 906 grams, so 453 each. So we're gonna get that first piece of dough here in our pan, and we're using the Lodge cast iron casserole dish. This isn't exactly what they use in Detroit style pizzas, but it's a black metal, so it's going to do what we want it to, which is really crisp up both the underside and the edges. Now, I don't expect this to stretch all the way right now, but we're gonna press this out in the olive oil until it's just shrinking back too much. We don't want to put any holes in it. Throw some saran wrap, some plastic wrap over the top, and let it sit for about 20 minutes while the gluten relaxes. We can do this one more time and we'll get all the way to the edges. So throw that in the fridge and let it relax. Now, if you don't have a second pan that you're going to do your baking in, then the second half you can stretch out in a little sheet pan, cover it up and throw it in the fridge and transfer it over to your pan later. I'll do the same kind of routine, get it stretched out a bit, and then we'll let it sit and relax. You know, I referenced this earlier, but you'll notice that the olive oil is excessive today. We're going to get everything kind of coated because I love the texture you get when that olive oil sort of fries the dough. All right, into the fridge. Next, we're going to move on to making our red sauce for the pizza. And it's going to need to simmer down for about 15 or 20 minutes, so now's a great time to do that. I'm going to start by prepping our garlic. We just want to get these peeled and minced down with the knife until we have roughly 1 tablespoon. I'm going to actually fry this garlic in some olive oil, maybe just a little bit more than I normally would cook or like sweat garlic. And for that reason, I'm mincing this down with the knife, not like on a microplane, super fine, because I want there to be some larger chunks of this garlic. I'm gonna put down a couple tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil in my Dutch oven here. We're using an enameled one. I'm not terribly worried about like the acidity and the cast iron, but when you use the enameled, you don't even have to think about it. So being that we are going to simmer these tomatoes for a while, why not use the enameled? Just crank this heat up just a little bit. That is gonna go relatively quick. Also want to throw in about 1 tablespoon of our Cattleman's Grill Italiano seasoning. And this kind of covers all those Italian spices and herbs that you look for in a great Italian seasoning. We'll let those herbs and spices start to toast with the garlic. Meanwhile, let's pop open our can of tomatoes and get those prepped to go in as well. So we're using our Chow San Marzano tomatoes, fantastic quality canned tomatoes, whole ones. They've been peeled, but they are whole. I want kind of a rustic style tomato here today. So we're gonna crush these by hand rather than blitzing them completely. Just get in there and get your gloved hands dirty. So now you got to use your nose and your eyes to tell you when that garlic's got enough brown on it, got enough color on it, because it can turn pretty quick and turn bitter if you let it go too far. So medium heat's a good idea. If you go any higher than that, you're liable to burn it while the center's still raw. But I'm seeing browning around the edges. My nose is telling me that it's become plenty aromatic. If we go much further, we might risk a little bitterness. So at this point, we can kind of stop that by adding in our tomatoes. Now I will mention, we've got a 2 pizzas worth of dough, but this is a single batch of sauce right here. So you'll want to double this if you're going to do more than 1 pizza. 1 can of tomatoes equals 1 Detroit style pizza. Now the final thing that we're going to add is about a tablespoon of sugar just to sweeten this up a touch. I know that's maybe a little bit sacrilegious to some of you. Most of the time I don't add sugar to my sauce, but it seems to be a common thread with the Detroit style, so I'm just going to sweeten it up just a touch. So this sauce is cooked down to the consistency that I'm looking for, not too runny and not too thick. And it's taken about 20 minutes to get there. We're ready to turn this off. Let's go ahead and put together our Detroit style pizza. Coming back to our pizza dough now. This has had some time to rest and relax. We should now be able to kind of press it all the way out to the edges. Yeah, it's looking great. So we're gonna go ahead and build everything right now. Now we are doing a pepperoni pizza. I've got 2 different kinds of pepperoni, but I'll tell you, I'm gonna put the big ones down first directly on the dough because I want that pepperoni flavor to kind of work its way into the bread itself. And then we're gonna go cheese on top of that, sauce on top of that, more pepperonis on top of that, and then we're gonna be ready to go into the oven. So we're starting out with the big sandwich cut pepperonis. So we'll space these out, get a dozen of them on top of the dough. And then we're gonna go with our first layer of cheese. So I've got 3 different cheeses today. We're gonna start off with sliced provolone. We've also got a low moisture mozzarella and a Monterey Jack. Although if you're up in the northern United States or anywhere where you have the opportunity, some Wisconsin brick cheese would be ideal for our Detroit style. So this is about 6 ounces of provolone, and what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna fold them in half, and I want this cheese going all the way out to the edges. So we're gonna place them so that they're touching the cast iron, because this cheese should be melting down along the side of the pizza as it cooks. All right, so we got full coverage now, layer 1. Now let's come in here with our mozzarella. And I'm gonna start again around the edges so we can get that cheese crust going. 3 ounces of mozzarella, 3 ounces of provolone, or sorry, 3 ounces of Jack, I should say. And then 6 ounces of provolone. Jack cheese on top, even out the middle. Oftentimes with this Detroit style, you're gonna see the sauce kind of poured out in strips like this right on top of your cheese, sometimes on top of the pepperoni or the toppings, whatever that may be as well. And for the top level, I've got these small little pepperoni cups. These are the ones that like to cup up and hold their grease. All right, now that is ready to go in the oven. Today we're cooking on the Yoder Smokers YS640S pellet grill utilizing the wood-fired oven attachment. Now it's running at 500 degrees right now with oak pellets. So this is going right inside the wood-fired oven for about 13 minutes. I'll set a timer for 6 minutes. We'll take a look and give it a spin. Guys, we gave this the 6-minute spin. It's been in probably another 4 minutes, about 10 minutes total now, but look at the frying that's going on around the edges, all that bubbling. I can see that we're getting some black around the edges. That's exactly what we're looking for. We're just gonna get a little bit more browning on the cheese and pepperonis here over the next few minutes. Wow, it's looking really nice. See, this is the browning I'm talking about that I want just a little bit more of right around here, but we're really close to being done. All right, guys, I think we're there. I'm gonna check these edges a little bit. What you should see is a little bit of blackness. Let's see if we can lift this up just a little bit. There you go. See that black edge around the top? That's a great indicator that you've got the crust you want underneath, just beyond golden brown. This is looking pretty ideal. It's about 13 to 14 minute range today. Let's pull it out of here. Now, before the bottom of our super crusty pizza gets soggy, I want to get it out of the pan. We're going to let it cool on a rack. There's so much moisture and stuff going on in here. If we just let it sit in there, it will start to get a little softer underneath. But we want this to cool down just a little bit before we slice into it, so on a rack's the way to go. Let's slice into this thing. Gonna go a dozen slices here. Oh man, listen to that crunch. Sounds great. All right, I'm gonna take a bite of one of these prized corner pieces. But boy, look at the perfect golden brown on the bottom. The way it's got that fried texture from sitting in the olive oil. Got a little bit of an open crumb, but it's mostly pretty dense. And then that cheese crust around the edge, that stuff, that's the magic. This pizza is like the king of texture when it comes to pizzas. Got all that crunch. You've got the cheese that's like cooked to the point where it's chewy, but it's got that great flavor between the provolone, mozzarella, and jack. It's no Wisconsin brick, but it's a great substitution. Sauce is savory, picking up on toasted garlic. Just a touch of sweetness. You don't even really notice it. You can't even hardly pick it out. But it really brightens up that caramelization and a 20-minute cook on the sauce. The sugars from the tomatoes themselves, and then that little bit of sugar that we added, that gets a lot darker in color. That's caramelization happening. And then below it, we've got pepperoni flavor worked right into the middle of the pizza. And this crunch on top, you know what these are great for? Holding a little cup of hot sauce. Fantastic. Might be my new favorite pizza. Throwing it out there. Might be. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out atbbq.com for all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoy the recipe, hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below. And let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to atbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.